Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today, I thought we would talk about gecko diet. Lots of new diets are coming onto the market for crested geckos and other New Caledonian geckos. So I thought I would start a review series of these diets to go over how the geckos react to the diets, the cost, but not only that, the nutritional content of these diets, because it's something that I knew very little about and still know very little about. I am not an expert in nutrition, I have to say that up front, but in looking up these diets and researching for this video, I've learned a lot. And I thought I would start our series by talking about this brand new diet that I got my hands on by purchasing something from Mossy Geckos. I will show exactly what I got in a future video. And so they sent me these samples along with it. So if you're interested in hearing about this diet, then keep on watching. This video is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. I was not paid to do this. I just thought, hey, I got my hands on these samples and I wanted to try it out, and so I figured I'd make a video about it. For anybody watching who doesn't own geckos and has never heard of this before, these powdered diets are actually commercially available diets for your New Caledonian geckos that are generally marketed as a complete diet that you can feed to your geckos and they will be able to live off of that. However, I will say that I highly recommend adding, live bugs to your diet. In fact, I would say it's a requirement for owning these animals. I really strongly recommend including insects in your diet along with these. But these commercially available diets really paved the way in the hobby to make us be able to keep these animals, especially on a larger scale. It just makes it so much easier for a new person that has never cared for a reptile before to be able to whip up a smoothie out of powder and water and call it a day, throw some crickets in and it's good. Versus back in the day, people were doing things like mixing baby food and combined with like lots of different, vitamin supplements and just trying to figure it out. It was all unknown. Nobody really knew a lot about these geckos back then. So Alan Rapashi was really one of the people that redefined the sort of complete diet for the hobby. And Pangea is, of course, a staple in terms of these diets. For the most part, in my personal collection, I use Pangea. That is the one that I recommend to everybody. It's the one that's worked great for me for years. I've never had any problems with it. Lots of flavors. So as a baseline, I'm going to be kind of comparing this to my staple of Pangea and see how that works out. So let's talk about the packaging of these. They are really cute. Actually, I really love the packaging. I know it has nothing to do with nutrition and it's completely, not like a super important thing, but I do love good packaging. As somebody who is a graphic designer, UI artist, I can't help but notice. Something I actually really like about these is that they make it really easy to immediately tell which one you're looking at based on a few different factors. So they don't just rely on color, but they also have a different gecko on each one. So on this one, we've got a Chewy. Yay! Finally a Chewy on a package. It's really almost always a crested gecko. And it's got a little heart on the chest there. And then this one has a leachianus, or a lychee, and the little heart in the forehead there. That's super cute. So I really like that. And then I like that they're visually distinct. They look really well designed. So you've got the orange sort of going on for this one, and then the red on this one makes it really easy to tell which one you're grabbing. So I'm going to insert some footage of me opening these and my initial impressions. Oh, sorry about that light. Looks like a slightly higher protein content in this one, which I think it does say growth on this, so that makes sense. And slightly lower fat, higher fiber, lower moisture. And then it has dried banana, organic dried mango, pea protein, black soldier fly larva meal, dried honey, dried whole egg, molasses, ground flaxseed. So similar, only really difference is instead of the dried fig, it's dried mango here. So I'm excited to try these. Since I have my Pangea insect, I figured I would compare it to this one, which is the higher protein one. The protein amount is the same. The fat is slightly higher at 4.5% versus 4.33% minimum, but the fiber is the really big difference here. This one has 1.2% max, and this one has 8. I don't know if fiber is good or bad, but you know, that's just a difference that I'm noting. Also, moisture is a lot higher in this one than this one. And there's an ash max, 8%. I don't know what that means, but there is no ash max on this one. I wanted to look up some of those things that I was unfamiliar with. For example, ash content. Ash is actually the remaining leftover product for if you were to actually incinerate this food down to nothing. So everything else would burn away. Your proteins, your fats, your carbohydrates, and all that's left would be the minerals. So ash content is actually a weird way of saying, you know, mineral content. It's on pet food packages like cat food. It's really important to put that on there because cats have short GI tracts, whereas other animals, they don't legally require you to put it on the package. So when I asked Mossy Geckos about their ash content, they actually did give me numbers, and they just said, oh, well, it's not legally required to put it on the package, so they didn't put it on the package. But I do have those numbers for you. For the Mango Magic, the ash is 6.1%. And for the Fig Date Night, the ash is actually 7.1%. So these are maximums. They could actually be lower than that. Another thing that I wanted to learn about was the moisture content in these, because there was quite a difference between the moisture levels in my normal Pangea food that I feed and these, which are significantly higher. It is a 10.88% maximum. I looked up human formulation for powdered diets. So for, you know, weight gain smoothies or powdered health supplement drinks and things like that. And usually they advise for the moisture content to be as low as you can get it. So like between 3 and 4%. And after 10%, there start being concerns about microbial growth and things like that. So I thought it was interesting that this actually has quite a high moisture content for being a powder. I can actually feel the difference. So let me just kind of open one of these up. So let's see if I can show you. See how it kind of compacts almost a little bit like sand. The last and most important probably thing that I was unfamiliar with that I looked into because I wanted to know more about it was protein source. For all of these diets, there are kind of a variety of protein source options, very similar to human grade ingredients as well, or human supplements that you could include in these diets. And different brands include different sort of amounts and mixtures of these different proteins. Some of the proteins that you can have in these diets include whey protein, whole egg protein, ground cricket powder, which I hear is the most expensive. Black soldier fly larva, or BSL, is what a lot of people will refer to it as. Pea protein, soy, potato protein, which is odd. I didn't know that that existed until I was looking things up for this video. And there's probably something else that I'm forgetting, but those are kind of the main protein sources that you could include in these diets. Different diets will choose sort of different formulations of those. For these diets, they seem to contain black soldier fly larvae, a whole egg, and pea protein, which I thought was interesting because pea protein is not in the Pangea diets. The Pangea diets have different sort of protein blends depending on their formula, and I'm assuming that these do as well. The insect one that I compared it to had cricket powder, whole egg, and whey. So yeah, this doesn't have whey in it. I've heard that whey is the most digestible, but also it is a little odd because it's a reptile and it's having dairy, which is interesting. But you know, I don't know anything about nutrition. I've also read that the pea protein can be potentially a bit more dangerous because peas, as they grow in different soils, can absorb heavy metals. I looked this up. I was trying to figure out, you know, the safety and the likelihood of things, and it's really hard to look up because it just depends on the soil that the peas are grown in. And so I really can't comment on these things one way or the other. I just thought I would report on them for you in case you are a nutritionist and you know what you're doing. I like to see at least that, you know, the protein sources and the fruit are the first ingredients in these and not rice bran or some sort of filler. So that's good. But otherwise, I can't really necessarily comment on the nutrition aspect of these. It generally seems like they're attempting to use good ingredients in these formulas. That's all I can really say on that. And if you have any knowledge about these protein sources or anything else, please feel free to comment below and educate me. Whew, okay, so that's all the nerd stuff out of the way. I just wanted to, you know, dive into some of that because it wasn't something that I found easily on YouTube when I was looking up diets for myself. Now we're gonna go on to the parts that I can opine on and rank. And the first one of those is the smell. The smell of these is so good. It's really, really good to the point where I'm glad that I know that there's black soldier fly larvae in this, because otherwise I would want to like eat it myself. Get better. Yeah, it's like, it smells like fresh picked, if that makes sense. It's like when you're peeling a mango and you get the smell of like the skin and kind of that like slightly green bit. Like, it smells really good. Like that combined with the banana. Oh my gosh, I want to eat it. And then this one, yeah, it's like, it's much more just sort of banana forward, but with this sweet, like, I mean, bananas are sweet, but like something else. It's probably the fig and the date and the honey. But yeah, it's like a richer, like rich aroma. It's just really, they're both really good. I'm gonna give these both a 9 out of 10 for smell. They are so good. These are the best smelling diets I've ever smelled, and I've mixed up a few. That's not to say that smell necessarily means the geckos will smell the same thing or find the smell appealing in the way that we humans do. But as far as I'm concerned, I want to eat these. Now we're gonna go on to mixability, which for me is how well this diet mixes up and whether the directions on the back make a consistency that is edible for the geckos. So as per the directions, it's 1 part food to 2 parts water, and this is the consistency, bit on the thick side. So going to just follow the directions. Normally I'd add a little bit of water if it's getting really thick like this, because it does tend to dry and then like get even thicker, especially for babies. But I'm gonna try exactly as directed, and I'll put it in the cups and show you how it looks there. It smells freaking amazing. I want to eat it. If it didn't have black soldier fly larvae in it, yeah, I'd probably eat it. Here's how the dried mango looks. It smells really good, and it doesn't have a lot of dust. One thing I notice about particularly the Pangea apricot, is that it has a lot of very, very fine particles that fly up every time I work with it. So I tend to sneeze and have an allergic reaction to it, which is why I don't feed that specific flavor anymore. But this is really kind of, it seems to kind of cling to itself, so it doesn't floof up, which is nice. But yeah, just this is what it looks like dry. So as directed, this is the amount of water, and it's extremely thick. I definitely need to add more water to this. So this is 1 part to 2 parts. I'm gonna try to like 2.5 parts and see if this is better here. I added 3 more scoops of water. It's still pretty thick, but it's a little better. I think I will still add more water. So this is the one that has more protein in it, and that's probably why it's thicker. Maybe you're supposed to feed it super thick, but if I'm feeding it to babies, it will get this like often impenetrable layer, and then they just don't really eat it. So I'm gonna add a little more water to it. With this diet, it was really just too thick. When I mixed it with the directed amount of the water, it came out so thick. Like I had to add a lot of water, and then even still, it was still too thick. And I'm not sure if that will impact the nutrition of the diet, if you have to mix more water in to make it, you know, the right consistency, or if it's just that maybe they need to adjust what they have recommended on the back of the package in terms of the dilution ratio of food to water, especially the mango one, because I think it's that growth formula, which are usually growth formulas are going to be thicker because they contain a lot of insect proteins. In terms of the actual like physical properties of it, it was pretty smooth. I actually thought that this was a really easy diet to mix up. Once you got the right amount of water in, it was like the granules are very, very fine, and the powder didn't like puff up, because actually I get allergic reactions sometimes to some of the diets that are too finely milled, and as I'm mixing them, the powder sort of gets into the air and I sneeze and stuff. Like the apricot one is no longer in my rotation, the Pangea apricot, because the powder just irritates my sinuses, and it's super, super fine. Because I think it has that higher moisture content, it tends to sort of glom onto itself rather than fly up into the air, which in terms of actually mixing it was really awesome. It made it easy to mix. I don't know what the moisture content will mean for like potential microbial growth or anything like that. So I would, always recommend following the directions and keeping the bag sealed and in the fridge and everything. But as far as mixability, it actually improved it. So I think I would give mixability, considering that it's too thick as directed on the package, but has a really nice consistency, I think I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. So there's room for improvement in terms of like what's on the package, in terms of the directions given on how to mix this diet. But if that is adjusted, I would definitely put that score higher because it was easy to mix. So now probably the most important one is the overall gecko rating, whether the geckos actually like the diet. Do they eat it? If they're not gonna eat the diet, then there's kind of no way you can really feed it. Even if it's the most nutritionally balanced diet in the world, if the geckos won't eat it, then you're out of luck. So this is after the first feeding. The ones on the top left are the fig date night. The ones on the bottom left are the mango. And then there's just some ones that are the Pangea insect that I also fed. As you can see the results, the Pangea was eaten much more readily than the others, although what's interesting to me is that the babies went for it more than the adults. And I wonder if that's just because they're more willing to sort of try new foods. I'm going to try again. This is the second round of feeding the new foods. This is the mango, and this is the fig. Never mind that. That present that somebody left in one, that is a common occurrence for our geckos when they don't like a flavor. So I'm just gonna consider that a 1-star review. The rest are various states of either having not touched it or devoured it completely. Obviously the babies were a bit more open-minded about the food experience than the adults. So I'm going to take an average of their scores for the overall gecko score. The babies, I would say they were okay with it. They were fine with it. They definitely, for the most part, at least tried it. So for this, I will give the rating 7 out of 10, simply because they showed willingness to eat the diet. However, for the adults, as you can see, not fans. There were like a couple of bowls that had some food eaten out of them, but for the most part, they didn't touch it, or that one gecko just laid a poop right in the middle, and that's how you know they really don't like whatever you've served them. I've had that happen so many times. I mean, it could be wrong, could be an accident, but for the adults, I'm going to give them a score of 2 out of 10 because they clearly didn't care for it. They might sort of like open up to the idea of it, but they certainly didn't adopt it right away. So that gives us an overall rating of 4.5 out of 10. There wasn't an immediate response to like devouring it like there are with some other diets. And our final category is cost. Cost is going to be a big factor because especially if you have a larger collection, you're going to be worried about how much the food is going to cost you overall. A 2-ounce bag is going to cost you $14.99. That's right, $14.99 for 2-ounce bag. Pangea is $8.99 for a 2-ounce bag. Lugardi is $8.99 for a 2-ounce bag, and Rapashi has 3-ounce jars for $9.99. So this diet is not quite, but almost twice as expensive as pretty much any other diet on the market. The cost on this, I think, is just too high. I don't know if it's just that the ingredients or the formulation in this diet have made it really expensive to produce. It could be because it's an independently created diet. It ends up being more expensive for the consumer. You can get these for $50, which I think is $10 off. However, that's still very expensive. They're going to be releasing larger bags of this, and I don't yet know the prices on those. There, I think, is going to be a 16-ounce size, and then maybe like a 5-pound bag for breeders. I always buy like the 4-pound bags of Pangea, so that's cool that they're gonna have a bigger size. As it stands right now, it's very high, so I have to give the cost a score of 1.5 out of 10. I want to see this cost go down. That will make it more competitive to the other diets out there that people are already using and relying on. That's just something that I think will be a big factor going forward with the success of this diet. So with all of those averaged, it's going to be a rating of 5.5 out of 10. I definitely think there's room to improve with the cost for this diet, fixing the water ratio recommended on the back of these packages. And I think those two things, if you adjust those, then, you know, this diet may have more success. So that concludes my review for the Mossy Geckos diet. Did you find it helpful, or was it just boring? And looking up all of this nutritional information, actually, I learned a lot. So I think I would like to go forward if that's something that you're into. Let me know, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.